running a little late. There's always things that I forget about with using Starlink. And I didn't even pay my bill. Whoops. I didn't pay my Starlink bill, and I forgot about it. Reconnecting a pair of headphones, other device. Okay. I forgot that I didn't pay my bill until I went to connect to Starlink. But they are a super cool company. All right, let me know if you can hear me. Starlink is a super cool company, and so they're letting me use the internet even though I didn't pay for it. Craig, I saw you say good morning. Let me know if you can hear me, please. Somebody. Let me know if it's cutting out. I'm hoping that Starlink is working. Nobody's saying anything. Hey, good morning, Jennifer and Royce. Yes. Loud and clear. Oh, good. Okay, thank you, Craig. Always worry there at the beginning. So I took a different angle for the video this morning. I wanted to sit by the fire because it's actually kind of chilly this morning. And some friends stopped by, and that was nice. And so that means I put off my breakfast, and I'm finishing it now. So this is only my second cup of coffee. Usually I finish my second cup right away. But it was fun having some people swing by. A friend is in town, and so anyway, it's chilly, and I absolutely love it. I'm excited about this fall weather, even if it's not. Oh, hey, isn't it technically fall today? I just realized it's about September 21st. Whoops. I need to get out to my other property and see if I can see where the sun is rising. Yeah. So anyway, so I'm a little bit thrown off here with my system. That's all right. I'll just take it easy. And so Royce and Jennifer brought up my cabin. I don't know if y'all know, but I'm remodeling my cabin, and I'm pretty excited about it because I'm making it nice. I'm making it nice on the inside. The outside, I'll probably put it off for a while because that's going to take another chunk of money. But I'm using, oh, whoops, I did have a filter. I thought I didn't have a filter in there, and so I grabbed another one. And I just dumped it into my water. So there's cheap pine materials for for coverings, which is fine if you're doing it for siding. Pine is a softwood, as you know, so but if you're not bumping into it a lot, and if you're not walking on it, then it can hold up okay, and it's cheap. So, and it looks nice. So I'm doing that for the interior walls, part of them. And then I found out yesterday they also sell shiplap in pine. And so that's nice. I can cover the exterior in it, or maybe just the front wall. Maybe I'll do the side just with cheap T111 siding and use the batten look, because that looks cool too, and it's like a fraction of the cost. So maybe I'll just make the front look nice. Maybe the back, finish it with pine. We'll see. Instead of just the whole thing, because even when it's nice material all around, even that kind of gets dull. But no rush to do the exterior. It's done in OSB for now, and that actually holds up fairly well in the weather. So it's mostly the interior that I'm focused on right now, and I am excited about it because I also bought a solar setup, so I'll be able to watch movies. Bet you never seen anybody use their creamer that way. Sometimes at the very end it gets kind of clumped up inside. So you pour the coffee, swish it around, and gets the creamer out. So anyway, I'm really excited. I'm gonna have it looking nice. When I had my house in town, I had this room that I hung out in all the time. It had a wood stove, it was finished in pine, oak floors, and I had my coffee set up, and I had my comfy chair, my laptop. It was back when I was a realtor. And I would get that thing like 100 degrees in there. And I'd sit by the fire, and I'd be sweating. It was a lot of fun. So I'm excited to finally get this cabin finished in pine, and it'll be really nice. And I'll have lighting. So hopefully I'll be able to endure the winter this year without getting that winter depression. So anyway, really excited. I'll be glad when I've got it ready to move in, because as much as I enjoy this, it's what I really like is being able to mix it up. So I'll probably do this again next year. Maybe not here because I might have the property sold, but move outside when the wind stops. It's nice to be able to mix it up like that. All right, let's look at some of these, look at some questions. Yeah, thank you, Jennifer and Royce. They're the ones commented about my cabin. Papa be hearing you, Doug. Word, thanks, K-Dog. Throw a bunch of junk to minimize. I talked about throwing out a bunch of junk. I haven't gotten around to it. I mean, I did a few months ago. I minimized even more. Now, the thing is, at that point, I got down to where I mostly have the stuff that I want to keep or sell, like stuff that I'd rather not throw away, like my teepee. I don't think I'm going to use it, so I'd rather just sell it if I haven't ruined it, because it's sitting in a barrel out in the sun. And so the heat might have made it really brittle and ruined it, but I need to pull it out and see how the canvas feels, and I've got a few poles still, so I'll just sell it off cheap, give somebody a good deal, stuff like that. And then a few other things, like I say, that it's like it'd be better to just sell it cheap than throw it away. So that's what I'm down to, and that's why I haven't focused on it yet, because pretty much all my focus, it was on training my horses and remodeling my cabin. And then I found out my horse's leg was hurting her, so I quit riding her and just focused on the cabin. And so that's right now. And the reason I'm looking over there is because that's where all my stuff is. Let's see. Oh wait, I don't have to move that around. Bam. So, oh, and I did move. Okay, so there's hey, good morning, Chris. So these two bins are empty. That's where I was keeping my water, because I was buying water. There's my two guitars, my Dutch oven that I need to clean, and my water barrels and my tarp for the cooler. Okay, so over there is storage barrels and storage barrels, and then my water buckets. So you can see it's already pretty minimalized. There's not a whole lot to get rid of at this point, but man, I'd like to, because when I go camping, that's when I think, man, this is all I need. But then when I get here, it's like, well, I got to cook for the dogs, and it's way easier to use a big pan for my food than it is to use my camping stuff. So it's hard to decide how minimal I actually want to get. but we'll see. And then usually this spot is shaded. It was shaded all the way through the hot summer. But now that the sun has moved, I get sunshine pouring in from here at certain times of the day. Not that I'm sitting here, I'm mostly working on my cabin, but when I come over here to cook, so I put this tarp up and I string it across and block the sun. So that was a nice way to not have to move all my fire pit and everything. So anyway, that's life. That's simple life for me. It's, I love it. Let's see. Sell motorcycle, looking at it isn't worth having it if you move. Yeah, I don't know. I can't bring myself to sell it or trade it. Like if I did, I would want it to be for something equally, like somebody offered me a camper trailer in trade, and I was tempted. It's tempting to get a camper trailer because I could Airbnb it potentially, but then when I think about it, like why would I do that when I could just build another tiny home that would be better insulated and it would have a diesel heater rather than, because camper trailers just aren't that efficient. They're, like I always say, they're built for, they're designed for the companies to keep making money. That's how everything vehicle related is, almost how everything industry related is, designed to keep making them money with repairs and parts and anyway. Well, like if somebody traded me a Jeep for my motorcycle, like something like that, then I'd be tempted. But I don't want to just trade it off for something that I would then sell. Or if I sell it, money goes so fast. Like I sold a nice saddle that I had, a really good saddle. And I thought, okay, that money is going toward another saddle. But I couldn't find a saddle and then had money needs. And so eventually I just squandered the $2,000. I mean, it was on important stuff, but it's like it just evaporates. And so I don't want that to happen to my motorcycle. That's why I'd rather have it sitting there with me than to just have it disappear. Money's just that way. And this fire is so hot. I threw some elm on it. Now it's burning my leg. But I've got a trick for that. That's when I put these bricks down. Hey, born 100 years too late. Welcome, Brett. Thanks. I love it here. That's why I don't do any camping. But I need to go out and do a camping video. Hopefully my horse's leg is feeling better now. I think it is. So I can go do a camping video. And when I do, I think, all right, I got to get motivated to do a camping video. I'll watch one of Brett's. Get inspired to go out and do that, because otherwise it's just like sitting around here. Well, like I said, working on my cabin. I'm doing some projects, getting more productive. So it's tough selling this property, but I think it's the right thing to do. Whenever I think about it, think it through, I think, you know what? Yes, I just don't want to deal with it. It's a lot of work maintaining a property. And I just, then I'd have to become a landlord to keep it by having Airbnbs. Yeah, man, I wish I would have been doing these camping videos. I started doing them right before I got older. And I know I'm still young and I still got energy, but not like I did 10 years ago, for crying out loud. Even 7 years ago. It's in the last 5 years that I finally, everybody always told me, yeah, one year you'll slow down. Guys who were older than me told me, yeah, you'll hit 30 and you'll slow down. I hit 30 and I was still like I was a 18-year-old. But finally, a few years ago, I started to slow down. But still, I got to remember, man, I'm younger now than I'll ever be. and got to make the most of it. But also the worst thing is slowing down, is letting it slow you down, because then you can't stop. That's why, Brett, you go out and do all those awesome trips, and I admire that. Of course, you're not learning as much as I am. That's one of the, everything I do, I'm learning or experimenting. Whoops. Learning and experimenting keeps me from moving quickly. Like making this movie, there's so much to learn. Working on my cabin, I have to remember. I just sit there and think, because I know if I do anything, I'm gonna forget something. And sure enough, I thought about something for a long time, and then I remembered, oh yeah, I would have forgot that had I just done it. And so instead of just getting it done, I spend a lot of time remembering. And even then, yesterday I covered a wall, insulated, covered a wall, and then when I got done, I remembered I forgot something. Because I haven't done construction for years, and so I got to remember it. And then on top of that, I do a lot of experimentation, like less studs, stuff like that, try to make it lightweight. And so far it's been good. It just, it creates, it makes it more complicated, where you don't just go through and, where you don't just go through and, you know, confidently doing, well, this is how it's done. Like, but it's good. I'll have a good end product. I'm glad I'm doing it that way, the way that I'm doing it. But it makes it's slow going. Yeah, well, that's awesome. That makes a much better channel. The guys that are still learning, those channels of the guys all acting like they know everything, get old really quick. Well, it's warmed up. Now I don't need the campfire. Sure nice though. Never get tired of a campfire. And once again, this was a year that I used the campfire. I use my propane burner a little bit. Like if I've got leftovers and I want to eat it in the afternoon, I just do that instead of a fire. But for the most part, I've been cooking over a fire all summer. I don't sit this close to it most of the time when it's hot out. That's the key. You just get a few feet away from it. Get a few feet away from it, and you don't feel the heat. So that's the trick I found out about cooking on a fire in the summer when it's 100 degrees out. 90 degrees this year, but the year that I did it, it was 100 degrees out. Figured out, just get a few feet away from it. Thanks, Brett. I really appreciate that. Yes, Royce, check it out. Born 100 Years Too Late. He's a YouTube channel. You should be able to click on his icon there and go to it. He does mule camping primarily, trips with his mule. And longtime horseman, Brett is. No Justin this morning, or is he not commenting? And we haven't seen Daryl for a while. And other guys, they might show up if I talk long enough. I started again at 8:30 thinking that was a more conducive time for people. So we'll see if they make it. Hey, look who just showed up. There's Nam Num Ken. What do you want, darling? Well, this is nice because when it's hot out, she comes over here, and I think it's to keep away from the flies. The flies have been really bad. You know, they get worse at this time of year. So I like it when she comes over here and there's no reason to be here except to be social, I guess. Like I said, I had some visitors this morning. They wanted to see the horses, so we're over there. They go straight to the green grass in the morning and eat. And so I met up with my friends over there by the green grass, and Namnumkin didn't even say hi, but Comanche Moon did, and that was a surprise because she's awfully standoffish. But oh, there's Comanche Moon. I love these horses. They're loyal to me, and they don't care about anybody else. I mean, I like it when they're social to people because I want people to be able to pet them and stuff. But it's cool, the bond that I have with these two horses. Out of all the 8, these are the 2 that like actually had a bond with. I've said this before, but the other horses that I've rehomed, they don't pay me any attention. Like Barley Mash, I go see him, he doesn't even act like he knows me. But these 2, they did. When I had them over at that guy's place for training, I'd slow down. He lives by the road, so I'd slow down, especially when I was in my truck, because they knew the sound of my truck. They didn't know the sound of like the minivan or anything. So I'd slow down the truck and they'd look up and start walking over toward me just because it was a familiar sound. Of course, I'd also holler at them. So, yeah, that cave video, I saw that too. That was cool. I was hoping to be in New Mexico this month, well, in October, but I don't think now that I'm gonna make it. I'm just gonna do a quick trip down to Arizona and then come back home and move out to my other property. I don't have anywhere to go with my horses, so I'm gonna keep my trip short. I hope her legs are okay. She had all these bites on it. We got these flies that are biting her really bad. And I don't remember having a problem with those 5 years ago. I think bugs come and go in waves. Anyway, we got these little biting flies. And I don't know if that's what hurt her legs, or if maybe her legs were swollen up from the bites. And I was riding her one day and she started kicking because of the pain. And I thought she might get to start bucking me off. But anyway, I didn't want her feeling pain anyway. So I got off of her and I haven't been riding her since then. Which means I also gave up working with Comanche Moon, who was making some good progress. She's so jumpy. I got to do a lot of desensitization with her. Even though I did take her up packing, the problem was I took my bed pad and I tied it up. It's a rigid bed pad. I tied it on the top of the saddle and that flipped her out, and she went bucking and like a wild horse. So I had to desensitize her to that. But the funny thing is, I've taken her packing. You guys saw the video. So she's not horrible. It just takes time to introduce her to new things, I guess. And when she doesn't like something, she really doesn't like it. So, well, let's see. What are we going to talk about today? I thought a subject would come to me, but it hasn't. Other things I'm doing, trying to talk Old West history on Facebook. That's a nightmare. Get people to actually give back up their claims. And there's people who think, I don't know, I don't need to get into that. The world of history is frustrating. Even listening to college doctorates. Are you following it, Chris James? So somebody posted about what kind of a revolver would a cowboy use in the late 70s, mid to late 70s. Now the thing is, in studying Old West history, We know very little about cowboys in the late 70s. People think there's pictures of cowboys. There's very few that I've seen, very few I'm aware of. And there's not a lot of information. Like the books that I've read about cowboys in the 70s, unfortunately, they rarely get into what kind of weaponry they're carrying. Like they might say something like Colt revolver, which to you it might sound like, oh, that's a great explanation. But as you guys know, if you think about it, Colt made, up from their first one, the Walker was the second revolver he made. He made a bunch of percussion revolvers up until, and then the Army revolver that we think of as a peacemaker, and then a bunch of them in between. And so if you just say Colt revolver, you don't know what kind of a Colt revolver. And it's really frustrating because the character that wrote the story about here in my area, that I always refer to that book, he's the one I'm talking about. He said, well, he carried a knife at first. He was a young guy. He carried a knife, and then he had to use it to defend himself against a couple of men who were trying to rob him. So he got a Colt revolver, and that's all he says, Colt revolver. And I think it was in the 60s, so I'm pretty sure it was a percussion revolver, but I'd love to know what kind, because one of my impressions that I do, one of my outfits when I go camping, it's pretty much him, so I'd love to be able to get the same revolver he had. Of course, I had an 1860 and I sold it, so now that I say that. So anyway, that's the kind of thing. But then you get these guys, so somebody said, what kind of gun did a cowboy carry? And you get, I think he's up to 80 responses on that post that the guy did, and not one person has given an example of, here is a book where I read and this person carried a percussion revolver. One guy, I made a subsequent post, and one guy, he replied saying that in a book he read there's a guy, but he also admitted that that example was a guy who was out in this particular area of Montana where he was on a ranch in a pretty peaceful area, like not a bunch of Indian threats, not a bunch of robbers to contend with. So it's like, okay, well, that's a great example. Finally, somebody admits what kind of a weapon they had in the, I guess, the 70s. He didn't say what year it was, but it's also not like typical cowboy. I just heard something weird. What's the matter? What? My dog's whining. I don't know why. What's the matter, girl? I'm afraid she's sick. I've been trying to figure out if she's in pain or if she's just old and slow. But also I've been feeding her a different kind of dog food, and that might be bugging her. Gosh. See, watch her get afraid. Hey, don't be afraid, good girl. And then she's not afraid. You can tell why I ride this one and not the other one. She likes me though, she just gets nervous about things. So anyway, that's what we deal with studying history. Yeah, Chris James says, too few images as well as documentation regarding 70s punchers. I lean toward percussion revolvers being more popular until the late 70s, but I would never say that I know for sure. Yeah, I don't see why. I don't know why somebody would think that a cowboy would prefer a percussion revolver. Oh, and yeah, plenty of revolvers in museums. Yeah, but museums mislabel things all the time. They're not reliable. And the thing is, there were tons of percussion revolvers throughout the 70s and even the 80s, if I remember right. But the question isn't, did they exist or were they used? The question is, what did cowboys use? And one of the more common arguments is, well, a new revolver was really expensive and they could buy a percussion revolver for $1.50. So obviously they bought the percussion revolver. And I respond to them, but nobody ever defends it. I tell them all the time, show me an account of a cowboy being thrifty with his money. Now a rancher, a guy who owns the ranch, yeah, I could see that guy buying a percussion revolver, and probably because he's got his cowboys fighting for him. But there's a reason that some guys would raise in social stature and prominence. It's because they were thrifty with their money. And then there is a reason other guys worked for those guys because they weren't thrifty with their money. I mean, it's the same we see a lot of the same thing these days. Guys who are bad with their money and they got to punch a time clock versus guys who are industrious and put off things so that they can use their money to try to grow their own investments and all that. Cowboys, they're always described as the type that would get paid a few months' wages and have it spent within 2 days. And yet people say all the time, oh yeah, they would save their money. And I tell them that. I respond left and right to people. Anyway, I'm starting to sound like I'm ranting. I didn't mean to do that. Chris says, I think you're right about preference. I think the punchers quickly learned they wanted a cartridge revolver. We definitely have first-hand accounts of punchers saying they preferred those. Yeah, that's all I've ever read, was that they liked the, yeah, and it's hard to come down to, was that actually common? Because a lot of times you get these accounts of guys reflecting back, and by then, a lot of times Hollywood was already making movies while these guys were writing their reflections. And so they want their books to be popular, or they get caught up in the craze and they say, oh yeah, we all carried a Peacemaker. And when they didn't, but it sounds cool at the time, and that's the famous gun. So even the accounts are hard to be reliable. But point is, nobody's backing up what they say with anything. One guy even said, well, I've been a cowboy all my life, and so I've learned, I know from doing it and from information being passed down. It's like, yeah, your parents are passing down, well, your great-great-great-grandfather carried a percussion revolver and he preferred it to a newer gun because he wanted to save money. Yeah, right. You find all this ridiculous stuff when studying history. People are just ridiculous. Why won't Marty chime in on that discussion? He might be watching. Marty, I don't know if you watch my live videos. Yeah, I know, he's not really contributing, but a lot of that's because Marty knows that it's not an easy one to nail down. Like I've chatted with Marty about it. For those of you who don't know, Marty is the most informed on the 70s, and which is a great point. He's the guy that I know that studies the 70s the most. He knows it better than anybody else. And he's not out there chiming in telling people this is what it was. It's because from knowing the most, he knows what he doesn't know, more so than most people. And then you get these guys on the opposite end of the spectrum, don't study at all and think they know all about it because they are cowboys now. Oh my gosh. Anyway, it's starting to sound like just a normal Facebook rant. I'm trying to talk about history. I'm not trying to talk about Facebook rants. So, anyway, that's the latest. That's the latest. I'm waiting for one more item to show up in the mail. I'm waiting for my vest, and then I'm going to get some pictures of my new outfit that I've been putting together. Even though I don't have the trousers that I wanted, I'm going to have to wear black trousers. I'll try black and brown. And so I'm going to get some pictures, and that's the outfit I'm going to wear. That's what I'm going to wear to Arizona, to Tombstone. Yeah, you were born on a ranch, raised on a ranch. You don't know about revolvers. Yeah. Did you carry a gun when you were a kid working? Yeah, thanks, Chris. I'm excited for it. I hope the vest arrives soon. I keep checking the South Union Mills update, and it just says still sewing, but it'll probably say that until they ship it. I got a shirt. I just got a shirt. So paid $150 for a shirt, and I've got boots. With the vest coming, it's mainly the trousers that I need now. Oh, you always carried a rifle? Yeah, that makes more sense. And that's what, speaking of Marty, he believes most guys carried a rifle. Reading about I've been reading about Billy the Kid, New Mexico. One of the reasons I really want to go to New Mexico now, again, I've been there, but I want to go back. Those guys around Lincoln County, they love their Winchester rifles. Like I had been to the point where I was like, I think this Winchester thing is just a movie thing that Hollywood dreamed up. And then I started reading about Billy the Kid. Those guys loved their Winchesters. Like they weren't going for Spencers or Springfields, I guess is what I mean. They weren't going for those long range single shot guns. They loved their Winchesters. And that's why I posted Charlie Beaudry, the famous picture of him. He's got his Winchester across his lap, and they were proud of him. But also the desert, because I live in the desert, and like I saw a coyote the other day, and I had a pistol with me. I was driving, drove off my property, and there he was right on the road, and I had a pistol with me. Like, that doesn't do you much good when you're in the desert. In the forest, maybe. Things are closer sometimes. But when it comes to animals and self-defense, like in the desert, like against Indians, a rifle is the only realistic weaponry to carry. So anyway, what did you have? We had a few head of cattle, but my father raised quarter horses. Oh, wow. Oh, that's awesome. My dream was to have I thought it'd be so cool to have a horse ranch, because I read the Smoke Jensen books when I was young, and he had a horse ranch, and I thought, oh yeah, that's so much cooler than a cattle ranch, even though a cattle ranch would be cool. Now I have the property. I could build it up, but funny thing is, there's just not enough time. And farming and ranching, it takes your life. Like, you gotta just devote your life to it, which isn't a bad life. I could, like, just managing the property and raising animals, I could find a lot of satisfaction and joy in that. But at this late stage of the game, if I was 30 again, or especially if I was 20, then that'd be one thing. But this late in life, there's other things I want to do. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, you probably didn't have wide open ranges. That's what I picture. I picture like huge acreage for grazing, like a cattle ranch. But Yeah, if you're all contained, then manure becomes an issue. It's because I've got a half-acre pen over here that I pin my horses in. I pin them up at night, and fortunately they do their business in certain areas to keep the other areas clean. But man, it's getting to the point where I might have to go in there and shovel a bunch of it up. I never have to deal with that because I let my horses roam. So pinning them up is new for me. Did your dad have you starting the horses? In other words, putting first rides on horses? I would imagine being a young guy, that was your job. Mares were all pastured. Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, so you kept the mares at pasture, and then probably just the horses you're breaking and working with pinned up. I'm guessing. I mean, I'd love to hear more. Estancia, New Mexico. That's freaking awesome. Yeah. That's what I wanted to do. When I was 15, 16, I wanted to run away and find somebody with a horse property and like just sit there and tell them, hey, I'm not leaving until you take me on. I didn't care about money. I just wanted to work for free and learn it. But I didn't know how common it was. Later in life, I found out just north of me, about 3 or 4 hours, there's tons of businesses up there packing outfits. They do trail rides in the summer, and then they pack hunters in the fall. I didn't know that it was common. I mean, pretty common. Had I known that, I probably would have driven up there, and from what I know now, they would have been glad to have me. Like those guys, I met a few of them a few years ago, and it seems they're always looking for young guys to bring on. And back then, I loved working hard and learning. There's even an outfit here close by that I didn't know about. I think he was in business back then. So anyway, I just didn't know it was a thing. The only cowboys I knew were down in Oregon, and they always talked about riding four-wheelers. And so this was before the internet, you know. And so I thought, oh shoot, cattle ranching is all gone to four-wheelers. Well, oh well. I didn't know that there were ranches that actually worked with horses, and or else I would have went and looked for one of those too, probably. I don't know if I would have. I was too loyal to my dad. Instead, I worked for my dad. Cross-tied them, saddled them when they were 2 years old. Cross-tied, that's to hold them still long enough to get on, isn't it? Dad would saddle up a big old gelding and snub them up, and I would get on. Never really allowed them to buck. Oh, okay, okay. That's cool. Yep. But funny how life works. I mean, I'd kind of not want my life to have turned out different. Well, I do wish I hadn't lived in Seattle so long. I wish I would have just stayed there like 2 years and moved on. But not moved to California when I did. There's a few things that I would have done different, but I don't know. Anyway, them horses are still hanging out there. I feed them at night and then and let them graze in the day. I don't even really need to feed them at night. I just do so that to keep them tame. Because I was working them daily. So if you work them daily, the more you work them, the better they get. And so I was locking them up at night because they get into that mentality that, oh, okay, I'm being controlled. But when you let them run wild all the time, then they get into that mentality of, oh, I'm not controlled. I get to do what I want. They're a lot like little kids. And so that's why I've been locking them up at night, even though I'm not working with them now. I was locking them up because it's easy to catch them in the morning, but I'm locking them up still just to keep that mentality going of, okay, we're his. We're not wild animals anymore. We're contained. And but even when I had them loose, these two, they still stick around. So all that to say, I'm really happy. When I had my geldings, they wanted nothing to do with me. They were great horses, but they wanted nothing to do with me. And so it's nice to have a couple horses that like being around me. Hopefully her leg's feeling better, and I got to put shoes on her soon. And then I can ride her out at my other property. I'm really looking forward to that. We can ride for miles and for hours, where here it just gets boring. It gets boring riding around on the property here. Oh, hey, Stanley Yorks. Told my mom when I was a kid that when I grew up I was going to be a cowboy. That is what happened. Oh, I didn't know that about you. Are you now, or you were for a while, and what part of the country? The little bit of cowboying work that I got to do, I loved it. I got to go up into the mountains. Around here, we got a lot of grazing land in the mountains, where when I was young, I didn't think that you'd have cows out in the woods, but we got lots of grass out there. And it's cooler because the trees shade it. So the grass grows really nice. Man, I loved it. We'd gather them. We'd go up looking for them, and then we'd gather them. We'd only get like 20, 30. There was two teams working, like me and my friend, and then another guy and his wife, or somebody else. And so we'd each gather what we could and then combine them, run them across the river and up a hill. We had to move them. It was on government land, and we had to keep them moved. And so that's what we would do, and absolutely loved it. I'd like to do more of it, but like I say, it's that life or nothing. Oh, I had no idea, Stanley. Also, I didn't know you were that old. I'm pleased to have you watching my channel. That's awesome. I'd love to hear more, like I said. Yeah, life's funny. It's like you get this practice run, and then you get old and you realize, oh, that wasn't practice, that was the real thing. And there's no do-overs. But I tend toward melancholy anyway, so I got to try hard to not make this sad or depressing, I mean. My life's good now. You're as old as you feel. Well, that's good. 'Cause I still feel young in a lot of ways. Still excited about a lot of things. I am excited about this movie I'm working on. Really hoping, really thinking it's going to be a good Western. I think people are going to like it. My hope is there's these things in entertaining and in mass, like entertainment for the masses, where it's like the general population all kind of feels the same way to an extent. One of the significant ones was Steve Martin. He had a weird kind of comedy until society at large was ready for it, if you know anything about Steve Martin's story. And then all of a sudden, boom, he blew up, and he was the hottest thing. And the theory there is that all of the entertainment, all the music, all the comedy back then, all the movies, they became really political. You know, this was during the Vietnam and everything, and the government pushing crap, people fighting against it. Everything was political, so everything had this serious intensity, much like we have today, from my understanding. I didn't live through it. This is from studying. And then Steve Martin came along, and the war had ended. And Steve Martin came up with just this wacky, bizarre comedy, stand-up comedy. And it was what the whole United States needed, was like this, kind of like a comedy relief from all of the intensity that they'd been living through for the last 10, 15 years. And then he did just this outlandish, wacky comedy, and they were eating it up. He was filling stadiums or huge arenas. I don't know how big, but it was a phenomenon. And all that to say, I'm hoping, I don't expect my movie to be like a big hit, but all I'm saying is I hope that it fits in with what people are wanting without even knowing they want it. Because I watch all these westerns, all these shows that I don't watch them, I try watching a couple of them, and they're just over-the-top drama. They're just all so intense, so serious. And so I'm making this western that's just lighthearted. It's an appreciation movie about the Old West, and we'll see. We'll see if it like rings true with people, or if I miss. Maybe it'll be a miss and everybody just wants to see all that drama porn, as I call it. Hey, thanks, Brett. You're probably gone already, but thanks for coming in. That was good to see you, always. Yeah, Brett's a good channel. There's a few channels that I like, but not many of them. Oh, yeah, you're still there. Cool. Well, I thought a topic would come up, but nothing's come up, so maybe we'll just call it quits. Let's see. Unless anybody's got comments or questions before we go. Otherwise, I am going to call it quits, and I'm going to go keep working on my cabin. It's supposed to rain this week. In other words, forecasted for Monday, so I got to get everything ready for the rain again. I like leaving things outside, and then when the rain's coming, I got to prep for it. So, adios, Brett, and everybody else. I'll see you next time, and follow me on Facebook and Instagram if you want to keep up. So, have a good one. Remember, life's a lot more fun over on the wild side.